I'm Hennah. If you don't know and we didn't get to meet last week, and I'll be your host today. So just to give a brief, my stand on GBV and why I'm taking part in this conversation is basically I'm a survivor and I've taken my case to trial. So we have today, thank you to Pom City Markets and Sylvia for organizing this platform. Thank you for Alto for being here, Dominica. One thing I want to just point out is why it's called Community Corner is because we are individuals, regardless of our employment, our organizations. We're here as concerned citizens to speak out on this issue. So it's not about where I work or which organization that you know me from. I'm just here as Hennah today. Thank you guys. Nice to meet you. Welcome from Wewak. That's amazing. We had Preston last week. I know you're also part of his Black Thursday Walk Against Violence. So the good thing is when Sylvia and her team uploads all this information and this discussion and these talks get put out for everybody else around the country to also have their say and participate. So I'm also just utilizing my media platform and running stories on all the groups, all the organizations. I'm happy to talk to people and hear what you're doing, and we put you in touch with other people, or everybody just communicates. And the thing that's so exciting for me is it's just like this massive movement that's just getting together. It's exciting. I think first up now, I'd just like to hand the mic over to Alto. I'm curious to know, did you ever expect the reaction that you got from the placard that you had posted about?
Yeah, thank you. To answer your question, I didn't expect that, but thank you for the opportunity given to me to share my story. I will discuss on how I get the words on the placard, and all my experiences going through, as all of us being informed and aware of it. So I was, Jeneline's case was one that everybody, they talked about, and I was also researching on internet to look at the gender-based violence that's happening in the country. So when I looked at it, the statement that I got is not a new statement. It's been there. The BBC report in 2018, it reports that the PNG is one of the most dangerous countries for females to live in. And Al Jazeera 2012 also reported on domestic gender-based violence in PNG. New York Times 2018 also talks about gender-based violence in PNG. The Guardian also talked about it. And there's a lot of many comments from people when they see the news. Those females as well as males, those living in PNG and have experienced how it is like. They make a lot of comments, and many of them are saying that PNG is not safe to live as a female. So this is where the statement comes out from. I picked what everybody stated, and it was there for quite some time. I just picked it out and put it out there, and it turned out to be as it was. Like it was posted on Facebook, and the first 3 or 4 days when people take it as it is, there were a lot of bad criticisms. They think that I am tarnishing the reputation of the country. Some of them, they threaten me. They create meme, and they do a lot of things. There are many bad things comes out of it, but those bad things were few, I could say. When a lot of people discuss about the issue, it seems that I know little about it. I see what's happening there, and how I feel as a woman. But then when the issue is out there and when people talk about it, a lot of people get educated. Some people, they have different opinion on the subject, GBV. But disregard of what they think, when they start to talk about it, they start to educate other people as well, and they educate themselves as well. So I see that people the good things that I see out of it is like people become aware of the issue itself. It was there, like I said, there were many UN reports as well. There are NGOs who are writing reports and survey on GBV, and the statistics are there, like 80%, being affected. It's there, but people did not talk about it. But when I put it out there, people start to talk about it. Now, a lot of people are being aware of what is GBV, Sometimes people get confused about crimes, about violence, and about GBV too. They think that GBV is something to do with equality or things like that. But now when they discuss about it, they come to know what the issue is. It's both male and female, are affected by it, and which is a really good thing. And also I see that people start to have interest in it, like institutions that can do something about it, like CIMC, the FSV, Family Sexual Violence Unit, and interested businesses, NGOs, like this event as well. People start to talk about it, and I think when people continue to start to talk about it, they can give prominence to the issue, and at the same time, they can come up with ways to address the issues. Like they can talk about how policies can be in place and things like that. So these are some of the good things I see that came out from it. People are being aware and something can be done about it. So there are challenges. I see challenges, but I see many good things comes out of it, and I'm really happy about it. These are some of the lessons I learned. Like if there is issue, we must talk about it. If we remain silent, it's not helpful. People are not aware of it. And I also realized that, I was threatened and things like that, but then when a lot of people talk about it, I feel that I am protected, and it could be the same for others out there. Like if they are silently being, abused in whatever ways, it could be dangerous if they keep it to themselves. When they speak it out, then the community become aware of it, and they have community protection. This is how I learned from my experience. I feel that I have community protection, so when I see threat on Facebook, I'm like, yeah, come and face me. I'm at uni, Yeah. So.
What's been the feedback from other students and colleagues at university? Because now we're seeing so many young people talk about it as well.
Yes, thank you. There was some group of students who they felt that I'm being biased. I'm trying to take the female side and I'm not on the male side, and some who think that it's really hard to. They think that I'm tarnishing the reputation of the country. They think that the country's, whatever it takes, we should, even if we face issues and things like that, we should always put it aside and think about promoting the good name of the country, which I could partly agree, but I would say that if we don't talk about it, then how can we know about it, and how can we resolve it? But then there are other, majority of the students are supportive. They're like, no, this is the real thing we're facing. A lot of girls, they came out, even at the uni too, it's not safe for girls to move around. In the night, there's people from Morata going in, attacking us. And they said, no, we feel that. And some, they share that they've seen their parents going through it and things like that. So they were very supportive of me. So even if you, on the Facebook too, all my friends at uni, they went and they attacked people around, the people who get on me, they attack them on Facebook as well. They're very supportive. Yeah.
I think that's the danger too. We all realize, and we have experience with social media. It's just we can't control what gets put out there. But thank you that you're so brave and strong, and you're empowering and inspiring. I think I'll take this opportunity now we can just move to Dominica, and she can share her experiences with us.
Thank you. I was just having a conversation with her before we started the program, and we talked about the placard that she put out. And I said, you're brave. You're very brave to actually have that message out, because personally for me as a citizen of this country, I feel like that's one of the key messages, that the intent of all these similar events that take place in terms of our civil society, our NGOs, voicing their opinions and their views on what important issues of this country, and one of which that is creating a safe environment for all of us, conducive environment for all of us. Development doesn't take place overnight, which we all know. Rome wasn't built in a day. Likewise, statements as such and actions of similar actions by our civil society, NGOs, what are supporting the intent of our government in terms of upholding human rights principles, fundamental rights, right to life and right to safety, and also echoing what our 5 directive goals and principles talks about: integral human development of a person. So how do we contribute as citizens of a nation, as citizens of Papua New Guinea, if we daily feel that we are challenged by every issue, not only gender-based violence, but every issue that challenges our thought processes every day? So I come here to give my opinions and views around the importance of safety, the importance of security, bringing the security discussion into the forefront, into the fore on gender-based violence issues in this country. And gender-based violence issues is not only about men killing women, but it's about men and women and children, issues affecting a household, issues affecting the community that we live in, issues affecting our society. And we must always remember that we are a Melanesian country, and our Melanesian principles apply in terms of our day-to-day lives. And so where do the security aspect comes in? Where do that support come in? From our relatives, from our wantoks, from our tribesmen, from our clan members? Where does that support come in? We must continue to encourage our conversation in this perspective of our Melanesian support, our culture, our good cultural practices, and in terms of our the tribal lineages, our clan membership. That's something that we will always live for as a Melanesian country. Thank you.
Well, good to see Lucille has joined us. We had her last week. This is another empowering Paumeri we have in our community. Outspoken. Would you like to just give a few comments? Their story is also one that's interesting. Security business, security companies. Every day I find, a new one in the country. But I was surprised but excited when I found myself walking beside these women who were providing security for us during the Jenolin walk. So how have things been? How have you been accepted into the security space with your organization?
Well, for White Rock Security Solutions, when Mr. Terence Smoker started, he had a vision, but he didn't know how to put it out, because a lot of people that he was talking to were going, right, you're going to have women standing there, somebody's going to come and do something in the night. So he was looking for somebody who was actually going to move that vision. So he got up at 2 o'clock in the morning to call me, and he went, I've heard that you do a lot of stuff on the highway. How about you pop around and let's see what we can do about this. So we had a good discussion about it, and I went, look, I travel up and down the highway and nobody plays around with me. Basically because I've put it out there that if you do this, there's plenty of ways that I'm going to get you. And a lot of times when we speak to our women, like the girls that are now coming up and going through our training, they've all got a stumbling block in front of them. Like, right, my husband's not going to like this. In the family, I'm this. There's always something that's put in front. Oh, I've got kids and I can't do. No, when we start putting a stumbling block, then you're not going to get over it. So in sitting down and going through as to what are we really facing. And then when the issue of Jenolin came out, I went, right, when something happens, everybody goes blah on social media. somebody comes out and says, right, we're going to go and have a conference at Holiday Inn. Right, let's come down to Lamana, we'll all meet over there. But outside there, the person who's been hit, the kid who's been attacked, the mother who's hurt is not put out at the front. So when we saw that the family was still sitting down at the village and they were still discussing, and then going to the grandparents, and they were also still sitting as to which way are we going to move, because they were thinking of how the public's going to look at them because of their failures or what they have and haven't done. But we needed something that, right, okay, let's move on it. Why do we always have to wait for somebody? And half the time when somebody goes, why hasn't this person done it? Why hasn't this person done it? Where are these people? Do I really need to wait for these people? So as soon as we got from the office to Unagi, we already had a crowd following us. And they were all wondering, like, why are all these ladies walking there? And I went, right, I'm just going to say it in your face. You need to be here because you got a mother, you got a daughter, and you're going to have children. And later on, if we pass away, who's going to talk for our great-grandchildren? So if we don't do it now, then it won't happen. So the morning when we got to Unagi, and all the women, we just said, come, just come. I'm not going to tell you, right, meet me at this time or meet me at this office. Come down. If you're serious, you come down. And by the time that we had left Unagi, we had already 2,000 people. And people had come from Central Province. People had come already from Laloki. The doctors at Laloki called, and I went, right, you got a bus there. Bring your staff. What you waiting for? You don't need to wait for me to tell you to come. Just move. So by the time we got to the Parliament House, the family had realized what was happening. And when Elizabeth Bradshaw and Thomas Oppa came inside, I went, I don't need to wait for you. You lost a daughter, but it could be my daughter next. And I said, the difference is I've got sons. And if I'm going to do the right thing, I've got to make sure that my son doesn't hit my daughter-in-law, because that's somebody else's child. And if I've got to look at it that way, that that's somebody else's child that my son is hitting. That's somebody else's child that my son decided to love and take, and has decided to throw a fist instead of sit down like a real man and talk. So if I don't make that move, my son might make a wrong decision. And that's going to hurt me more if I find that my son is a perpetrator. And for a mother who has daughters, she's going to be worried that her daughter is going to suffer the same thing she's going through. But for me, I don't want my son to be sitting in that position. If your sister's going to walk out the door and go, I'll just carry a few things because somebody's going to pull my bag. Or you walk down the road, you got your phone, but you're checking around because somebody's going to grab your phone. If you've got self-defense and martial arts training, right, you want to try me? I'm not just a pretty face.
That's so true, because that's a testament I vouch for, because I've done boxing and self-defense in the past. I've made sure my now 20-year-old daughter also did martial arts, and my 10-year-old son, because I felt as a woman, we live in Port Moresby, you have to know how to take care of yourself. And that also followed a kidnapping incident, for another story, but comes back to respect of each other's rights. So maybe, Doctor, if you're ready, thank you for representing all the men who are tuning in and watching in and supportive of everything that we are talking about.
When we evoke or invoke the idea of culture, we tend to look for reasons that underlie or explain behavior that is violent and non-acceptable. So somehow we go back to try and find the locus of violent predispositions, whether it comes from ethnicity or from your gender or from your upbringing or something somewhere. Always the thinking goes quickly to go and locate how did it come about in this way. And so we would blame being male, but we all often tend to go back to culture to find explanations for behavior. I've been surprised to think that it's some years of being educated and we still don't quite show evidence that we are of that level of intellectual maturity, if you like. So when I saw Otto's placard, I actually stopped stole the image from her Facebook post, and I put mine on alongside hers. And I was trying to provoke people to fight with me and take the fight away from Alto. But no one wanted to fight with me. Maybe because they didn't understand what I said. And I don't blame them, and I don't blame me either. What she said resonates with what she said earlier about inclusiveness. And I think that the safety of women and girls is also the safety of everyone. The measure of our development, however we think of it, whether it's in your mind or in your pockets, in the state of your affluence or your abject poverty, whatever it is, the safety and security of our women and children is the measure of our prosperity. So we have to shift that. If women and girls are safe and secure, that means that they could leave their houses if they were in a suburb in Mosby and walk down to the closest tucker shop and buy a drink or buy a flex card in the night and walk back without any thought or an inkling that they could be under attack. Now, I grew up in a village, and that would girls would easily move in between houses or in between different parts of the village in the night at will. And really, do you think that they would possibly encounter an attack of some sort? But if we could think of something like that for a nation as a whole, then we possibly would begin to find some ways of measuring how we think is safe. So I think as a whole, as a policy initiative, we have to find ways of telling us, how do we think that women and girls are safe? How do we think? A very, very simple question. So people who have so much money about community development or well-being or that kind of thing, okay, how do we measure? How do we measure the safety and security of our women and children? How do we measure it? Is it by walking at 11 o'clock down in the night? Is it the best thing to do in the 11 o'clock in the night? Or, when and where is it safe? Those very basic questions, beginning from our homes and getting to our streets, getting to our suburbs and getting to our CBDs or wherever you. It looks like a very urban question. The second point is that it looks like safety, and of course if you begin to think about the kinds of violence associated with social accusations, then you will go elsewhere. But anyway, I thought I'll just leave this question.
Thank you very much. I think we'll welcome our sister here from Sepik. I'm interested to if you could share, what you do and the organization that you're part of. And welcome again to our discussion.
Thank you everyone. I run a small NGO. I'm the manager of the NGO. It's called Help Resources, hub for enterprise and participation. We do a lot of training on human rights, gender-based violence. We also participate in the Pacific training, so you'll see my t-shirt says, I call myself as a feminist, and I grew up in Sepik. It's a small town, it's a small place. I think back in the 80s and 90s, there were lots of movement in the Sepik, and they go out into the Pacific as well. What made us woke up was, it was right after the Jenna-Lynn's case. Me and my group of friends, we said, that was the time that they were taking her to the house. And as Sepiks, when a dead person is taken to the house, we all go that night to pay our last respect. So we decided to go downtown, have a 5 minutes silent. We didn't even talk or anything. I think someone stole our pictures and put it on front page national. And it came out, we were working in the background, doing things that we always do, running trainings. We also run trainings for, when policemen come out of police college, they don't know basic human rights as well, so they mistreat people. And my organization, we run trainings for them. And it was a time that we were doing those trainings, and we see policemen and women mistreat people, So we started, like Preston started the Thursday in Black walk. So we all join in and we talk about it. We talk about in small groups, because we say if we talk too much in big groups, people don't understand, people don't get it out, and people don't practice them. So we do those little groups that we can go and also one of the things that I see that I found out working in an NGO is that we have system that can support this kind of movements. We have system that can stop this domestic violence in the country to protect women and girls. But the system, when it comes down from the higher level down, it breaks into pieces, and the bottom people don't participate in those. Only if you're a privileged person, like if I walk into the hospital and because I talk too much, probably they'll serve me more. But an unprivileged woman who is from the village will not get served up front. I like the talk of the culture, and I'm a very traditional, I like to keep my tradition, but I also remember that my grandfather, before he goes out to talk, to mediate if there's problem in the village, he would always have something to eat, and that's when his wife would serve him something. And he would ask the wife, what do you think of the situation? How do you want to contribute to the situation? And even though he's the chief of the village, he always consults his wife before he even. And I really, as a person, as a feminist, I don't like the idea of guys using the term, oh, this is my tradition, I can beat you up. If I pay for you, I beat you up. My grandfather wasn't like that. Why are we calling tradition violence? Yeah, so my organization, we do lots of trainings. One of the policies that we also doing trainings on them right now is the Informal Policy Act. Is we let the SMEs in Wewak and Sepik know that they also have a right, but they also have a voice if they come together. And I think that's one of the things that I'd like to come. It's a trip for me to see what's happening in Moresby, what other SMEs are doing, and to go back and support the. Because during COVID, when we call them table market mamas, they stop them from marketing. And when markets stop and they don't bring money home, those husbands get angry and they beat them up when there's no food. And so this is one of the things that I'm out here to see what the movement is, what everybody's talking about, so I can go back home and say, they're doing this, we can network with them and we can see how we can have our market dialogue going.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I like that we're hearing what other people are doing in other provinces, and you're right when you say there are a lot of people that work in the background, people, organizations, small groups that have been doing things in this space for so long that people just don't know about. And like Alto's situation and Jenilyn's case, it's only now that the conversation's picking up. We get to hear about these things. So one of those organizations I had the pleasure of even speaking at was Yvonne's. If you can just share with us what your organization does.
Thanks, Hennah. So the Business Coalition for Women was started in 2014, and our organisation was started by the business community because they recognised that there were significant barriers for women in the business community, and they wanted to address those. And one of those issues was family and sexual violence. So a lot of our studies and our research has identified that it is a major concern for businesses. So most employees, 94% of employees, think that their staff members are affected by family and sexual violence. We know that 10% of the workforce in 1 year is impacted by family and sexual violence. We know that it cost one company $3 million in 1 year, in terms of staff training response. So, that aside, we know that it is a cost to business. They now see it as a social imperative. So they really want to be part of that conversation to try and address family and sexual violence. But they also recognise that there are other players in this space that they need to join with. And like you, I would love to see more of us coming together and raising our voice a little bit better together, because we all come from different spaces, but we can also influence our own spaces. So whether you're an individual at the home, you've got a circle of influence. And my business, yes, we work with the business community to try and influence behavioural change, but also have a response around family and sexual violence. So we all can play a part, so we can all work at different levels to try and change. What I'm seeing is us going backwards. So about 3 weeks ago, I got a call from Radio National, and they wanted to interview me. And I knew this was going across Australia at 6 o'clock in the morning. And Fran Kelly, she asked me a question, and she said, so the your Prime Minister has recently said that he thinks that it's a part of your culture, family and sexual violence. And it really threw me back, because every part of my body just wanted to say, no, it's not part of my culture. And so I had to think really carefully about how I was going to answer this. So I said, for me, culture is not stagnant. It doesn't stand still in time. It's dynamic. So what I'm seeing now is that our modern day culture is accepting what we're seeing and how we want to treat our women and children. And that's not acceptable. So if I can see how we've changed, and we're going backward actually, that's how I see it. We can change in other ways. And I'm glad that there's people around this circle, and I like hearing men's voices too, to contribute to that, because women can't do this alone. We actually do need men to join us in that conversation. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's funny, because when I saw her t-shirt when she walked in, recently I'd posted something on social media, and I will utilize this platform because I am already using mainstream. And because I had posted an update on a personal experience, I got called an angry feminist. And aren't you worried people are going to see you that way? I'm actually not worried about how people see me. I'm more interested in how they receive the information that I'm trying to share, whether it's about your rights, because I really believe it's so important that, yes, we're trying to educate and get our young men and our men to understand what they're doing is wrong, but at the same time, we have to make our women understand their worth and remember the value that they bring to a relationship, or as a family member and all of that. And I think I want to ask Kamel, in the media space, how have you seen the coverage of covering this topic?
Right, thank you. So as a person obviously who's been in the media and knowing, I guess, the amount of work that goes through, Hennah, you would know as well, it really takes a passion, I think a personal passion, to do extra work and go above and beyond what you have to do every day as a journalist, covering stories and everything, to follow up, to do follow-ups and do investigative journalism and things like that. So I guess the coverage when things like this happen, it's the big news, so we've always got that news. But I guess as a fellow journalist, I think encouraging the media to do follow-ups and to really get into cases and see what's happening, not only the high-profile ones. There needs to be, every single day a woman goes through this. Children are now going through violence. We're seeing it more. It's always happened, but now we're seeing it more with social media, obviously. So I think it's very important that official mainstream media really get in special teams in their own offices and that are just on these issues and following them up and things like that. I guess with organizations as well, the organizations that all of us are involved in, and that
probably forming partnerships with the media houses and talking to the media council, making it part of your job as well, your agenda, to get that awareness out, I think is really important. To have your contact within all the media houses and sending out a monthly email and saying, hey, this is what we've done this month, because you all do great work, but no one can hear about it unless it's out in the media. I guess apart from that as well, with the FSV unit, we've heard from Sergeant Job, and that you know they're struggling. They're so pressed for resources and funding and things like that, and they've just got so much of these cases happening. I think that it's important that the media talks to them as well, and lets people know out there that, you know, there are people trying to do their job, but unfortunately, you know, making that known, I think there will be more of a community push through the stories that they read when they see that, hey, you know, we need more funding over here. We need the government to look into this more and help these authorities out to do their job. The law and order issues where, you know, we have some cases that are just pushed under the rug and just forgotten after a while and that sort of thing. The media needs to be a watchdog for those ones as well. But I think also, you know, being a journalist and like saying, being on the inside, I understand the hardships that they have and the work that they have to do as well. I think that the community as a whole also has responsibility to sort of say, hey, we forgot about this case, you know, where is it now? I guess when you look on the social media side, we see that things blow up for about 2 weeks and then they just get forgotten. And, you know, obviously we all have our own lives and hardships and things that we need to care about, and we can't go out fighting every day of our lives, you know. But I think that obviously with sessions like this and on our own space and in our own jobs, and that we need to sort of think about ways that we can organize ourselves to get the awareness and public, you know, out there. Now that I've stepped out of mainstream media and I'm trying to run my own media consultancy sort of services, I'm now part of that community too, you know? So having all those contacts, I think networking is very important. Telling everyone that, hey, I've got all these contacts, I know how to do things, you know, let me know if you need some advice or some help or you know, and for free, because this is, I guess, what we're all fighting for and that. So yeah, just a few points, I guess. I'm not gonna point the finger back at the media and whatever and say, why aren't you fighting for this or talking about it more? I think it's everyone's responsibility to also support them to keep the conversation going.
Thank you, Carmel. That's really true, because we stand on a really fine line as journalists, as female journalists, and then you're in a country where if you try to run some stories, even our male colleagues will tell you, we do get threatened, we do get harassed, we get intimidated. When we had the UPNG student uprising 2017, I was on a PMV bus going to work. I was with NBC at the time. Then I get a phone call from my family in Jayapura. Is that you? Did you get attacked? We saw on social media some NBC reporters been attacked by a policeman on campus. I was busy running across the road to get into A&E to try and get a story because ABC was reporting that 7 students had died. That wasn't true at all. And you need to get inside to know what's happening on the ground. And so I just want to give credit and say thank you to all my colleagues that I have the opportunity of working with, because it's not an easy job. And like Kamel said, some of these stories you have to be passionate to want to push. We argue with our bosses to cover certain events and activities that don't always get given prominence, because some of us are not sitting here to just write and report about politics. I think some of us are sick of it. And some of these other issues can help, and we want to push those out to force the politicians to do their job at the level that they're supposed to. So at this juncture, anybody here have any other comments that they want to add at this time?
So something that just from when Alto spoke, and it was just sort of stuck in my head about how she came up with that message, what she wrote on the placard, and how people were attacking her for that, and the fact that she said it's been there before. And I think, again, media and all of that and the role they play, I do think the funny thing about that is people are attacking you for saying it, but they're not attacking the people that create the instances that led to those headlines, you know, and that's where I think people are missing the point. if there is no violent crimes, there are no headlines, there's nobody holding a placard saying, I don't feel safe. And that's where people need to get it right, you know? And I see the arguments on social media all the time. And I feel like when you're saying that, why aren't you saying, hey, don't rape women, don't put it out in the world that we have rapists here? Let's get rid of the rapists so we don't have to have those headlines. So that's something that immediately when you said that, I thought, that's the argument that always bothers me the most on social media. And with self-defense and that's something, again, my very loud daughter today, I can't stop thinking about with her as well. When I was growing up, as you said, Dr. Motu, there was not, in my village and also here in Moresby, I remember being able to run down to the softball fields anytime I wanted. My mum and dad were playing softball, then go to the soccer field where my sister was playing. We go back and forth to the market on our own, no problems. You know, fast forward 20 years later, I won't let my daughter out of my sight, you know? And so now all I can think about is, when is the right time to start self-defense? What does that look like for a 2/3-year-old, you know? And those are the issues that we face, and that's why, for me, and we talk about our social environment and culture and all of that, our motto here at the markets and with all our SME work is building business community culture. And I believe, like, as you said, culture doesn't, and tradition, it didn't just stop. Those before us didn't write one song and then sing that forever and there was never another song written. They kept writing songs, they kept evolving and changing as times moved on. And for some reason we've decided, you know, culture and tradition is going to just stay as one thing and that's it. That's the decision our generation's now decided to make. So I believe in building in a new culture, perhaps in this modern world. It starts with us doing things like these markets, like what you're talking about doing in East Sepik. You're creating groups doing the same thing, having the conversation. We already have it in us to have these conversations. Watching my mum and her sisters now, when I go back to the village, I'm of that age that when they have those discussions, I'm involved with it, you know, but I watched them doing it all my life. You said your grandfather would speak to his wife before he went and made any decisions. New Island culture is kind of, in matrilineal society, it's the same sort of context. The women get together and they talk about these things, and the men are the ones that stand out there and deliver the message and talk it and uphold that publicly. But the conversation happens with the women, and it's not just women talking and making all the decisions. I see my mum and her sisters, they sit around, they talk, and then they call the men in as well. They get their brothers in, my mai's in, and they sit around, they said, oh, this is what we're thinking, what do you think? And they have that conversation, they come up with the decision together. And somehow, you walk out of the village and you come to the city and everyone's like, no, this is how it's done in my culture. I don't believe that that's actually a cultural thing. I just call it an excuse. You know, they're finding any reason, and I really dislike, sometimes people use religion as well. And that upsets me because, you know, it's something you want to be able to take your kids and your family to church and not have conflicting feelings about the discussions that go on. The same, you want to be able to go to a village and participate in cultural things without having conflicting feelings. And somehow, some people have decided we're going to turn the words a little bit to suit the problem that I'm creating so that I don't need to be held accountable. And then that ruins it for everyone, you know? And I often think about that when I hang out with friends that are having religious conversations. I really listen because I worry sometimes what they might impose upon her at this young age and how she will translate that in all her life. And I think that's where we as adults, we as an evolving society and as an evolving culture have to keep having these conversations. And that's why I encourage, last time I was saying, whether it's with your sporting group, with your church group, just with your friends hanging out, to have these conversations. And I've had some pretty heated discussions about religion actually with my friends. And then some of the things that they would talk about, I thought, that's not what I was taught. And my grandfather was a minister. And so we've had all those conversations, but as friends, we can have the conversation, we can disagree on things, and then we can say, okay, this is how I feel about, this is how you feel, that's how we relate to it when we read it. And we're okay with that, you know? And I think that's where having more groups like this and having more discussions like this and creating more family-friendly spaces like this helps change this cultural barrier. People constantly ask about, you know, when I talk about the markets as well, Pom City Markets, I feel like, You can go to any market around town and still find different people selling various things that are similar. You can go. People don't feel safe going to those places. So when you walk in the gates here, you know that you're stepping into a place where every person selling in here, every person coming to buy, people bringing their children, they're here with a purpose and they are economically independent. You know, that's the other thing. And when you're talking about empowering people, I believe this so much. If every family had a small business of their own, we would see a lot of these problems stop. You know, jobs is a big problem. We're talking the other day about how crime, do you want to share that story actually? I don't know, maybe don't mention the company, but you can talk about that person, is that okay? I'll let her share a story, but people are losing their jobs every day. And rather than them feeling that I can't get another job doing the exact same thing, I want them to be able to see, like, here is a skill, here is a talent, here's something that I know that I can turn into a business to sustain my family, rather than turning to crime. So can I just pass it on to, and she can share her story?
Yeah, there was a prisoner. She's been in jail for 2 decades. And after we did the walk for justice for Jenilyn, they actually reached through the National Youth Development to actually make contact with us. So I went and sat down with the individual, and she started talking about her life story and what she had gone through. And I actually dropped tears when she got up and mentioned that he was the love of her life. You know, and she's been sitting inside prison thinking about it for 2 decades. And she talked about her child that she has never seen because he was a baby at the time, and she's left him that long. So she doesn't know what he looks like now and where he would be, and she's been moved from another province to serve her sentence here. And in talking about her coming out, she had a lot of things to say and questions to ask that left me with, right, okay, we're going to help you with this one, because she wanted somewhere where she would feel that she can fit back into society. And when she heard about us, she went, right, these are people that can help me. So in sitting and talking with her, and we were discussing issues, and she was going, right, when I killed him, she went, it just happened. I didn't think about my kids, I didn't think about family, I didn't think about anything. I thought of the anger at that moment, and that he's cheating on me. And that was it. So she also talked about, I've seen on the TV about phones. And so I took out my phone and I went, yeah, this is an Android phone. And she went, mi no sabe. And it put me into this view that, right, I've got somebody here who hasn't seen 2 decades. She's going to come outside into society, and normally when the prisoners are let go, they're left outside the gate, and they don't know the bus fare system now. They don't know which bus they're going to get. The times have changed, and this individual is going to be left with all of that. So that's what led to now where we've got counsellors now sitting inside with our workforce, and then with the National Youth Development, I'm sort of, right, this individual, there's nothing at the back there to serve the perpetrator. There's absolutely nothing there. When we talk about violence against women, and you see, this is something that happens as well, right? You've got a guy that's cheating on his wife and doesn't understand how much hurt he's putting on the woman that actually is there 24/7. And her anger is at that I'm here for you, and you've gone and done this. And in that instant, she did something that has totally taken her life away. And she sat there and she's going, mi love him entro. Na mi sorry se me gopinis. So it hit me that, right, this is a woman, she understands what she's done, but she still kept on expressing that she loved him. But how is everybody else going to know that? And the perception of society on her now, being a perpetrator, that she comes out, I'm killing man. They're not going to think of her as anything else, but who's going to help her at the back end? And when they come out, and this not only happens for women, it's also for men as well when they come outside. That back end is not there. That's why when criminals come outside, they don't see that support. So you will automatically find that, right, okay, he's done stealing, he's gone inside there, he comes out, he's going to continue stealing because everybody's just going to look at him as, right, you steal money. And that's the, come outside. They don't see it that, right, okay, you've done your time, you've come outside, let's help you change. If that counselling is done inside, how about we continue it outside? You know, it also brings me to the statement of culture. For us in culture, having 850 different cultures on one massive island, and then that's only half of the island, right? We think on the other side of West Papua, they also had more than 350 as well. So when you think about it, we've got about over 1,000 plus, almost 2,000 different cultures. But each individual culture had respect for the women. Now, yes, we can say the influence of religion, there's the influence of Western culture that has come in, and it's left us in a state of confusion as to, right, polygamy? Okay, my culture says it's okay. You go to the Bible and it's a sin, right? And then if you go to our laws, adultery is a crime. So which one are we following? So you've got a culture going, right, yeah, I can do it on this way, I can fly this way, and I can fly that way. But what we need to do is actually start decolonizing our mindset. We've got to understand where religion stops, where politics starts, and where our culture stops and starts. And if you look at our culture, in traveling around PNG, you'll find that every time that I'm talking about the yesteryears, every time there was a hand put out, if your in-law came and stood in front of you, they automatically respected and moved away that, okay, I'm not going to be compensating my tampu, so I need to stop. Today's, nobody cares who you are, whether you're the parent of the girl or whether you're the uncle of the boy, it doesn't matter. Everybody has their own interpretation of what's happening. So when we start changing the mindsets of people, we'll start finding that each will start respecting the other. We can change Port Moresby. It's not that difficult. It's just putting practical solutions. But we need to do this without waiting for somebody to take the action. We need to move now. If we're going to save a beautiful one like this, then we got to start doing it now and not wait for tomorrow.
Thank you, Lucille. Thank you for sharing that story about the woman too, because one interesting fact that I didn't even know until CIMC had done a session at my office was that in the whole of the Pacific, we have this thing called the battered wife syndrome. Only one woman in the whole of the Pacific has ever won her case to defend herself that murder took place because of intimate partner violence, and she had had enough and she killed him. And you don't even mention that here. And I've had the privilege of being able to, I used to work on a separate show, Community Talk Survey for the Department of Community Development and Religion, and they had this amazing program where they could go up and visit the female inmates and give care packages at Christmas. And you're seeing women in there, and the majority of them that are in there are because of intimate partner violence, and they had enough and they committed a crime, and that's where the society is at, because that conversation we've not even started here. So thank you today to everybody that took time out to come and spend with us and share your experiences. We look forward to the next Community Corner. So thank you again to Sylvia and team, and we'll see you next time.